just stay back there, right there, right here. Oh, right there.
Behind it.
In front of the barrel.
Okay.
Not in it, in front of it.
Well, what a great crowd, believe me, and I really want to thank every one of you for coming and for honoring Dinah and myself, even though she can't be here with us, with this plaque that our mayor just presented to us. And it was in recognition of the beautiful refurbished kitchen, the stainless steel. And if anybody who noticed that as you were getting your food, take a second look, because it really is nice. Lake Matanga had established memorial funds with donations that were given to Donna's memorial at the church service. And we and Donna and I, meaning, and the Lake Association were really privileged to support and to fund a portion of the renovation that you're seeing. The kitchen, I'm sure, will functionally serve the many Lions events that reach out to the community and to tourists and to everyone who comes to enjoy this pristine water that you're looking at here. Well, I'd like to share a few comments about how Donna and I came to love this lake and the community and its people. And when we were kids, my son Rick, who was just there, raised his hand, and his wife Barb were kind enough to come up today. He lives in Madison, but fortunately he was on call this weekend, but Mondays are off, so he said, we gotta come up and see Les, so he did.
Very good.
When our kids, Kathy and Rick, and I call them kids, but good gosh, he's no kid anymore, and my daughter's
60-year-old kid now.
Yeah, 60. We would visit a cottage on Lake Matanga that belonged to Donna's brother, Chuck Rowland. I don't know if any of you remember Chuck. They're dead, okay. And his place was located on the top of Strawberry Bluff, and you can see the little hump in the trees. That's it. It was a beautiful spot, and he could almost see every inch of the shoreline from his location. We usually brought friends with us too, and of course we all loved the water and the fishing and the swimming and the watercraft, the skiing and the tubing. Everybody had just a great time on Lake Matanga. Well, around 1974, Donna's brother Chuck called and he let us know that Dr. Kendall, who was just down the hill on Strawberry Bluff from him, wanted to sell his place. Dr. Kendall had a dental practice in Merrill, and his wife, by the way, was from the Philippines, and she disliked, as you might expect coming from the Philippines, the cold weather in the winter very much. And so she ended up deciding to spend her winters in Arizona. Well, it was a bit of a commute for Dr. Kendall, and I think he finally felt, gee, maybe I ought to give in and go join her. So he wanted to sell. Well, we met with Dr. Kendall and came to an agreement, but he decided that we needed to buy the place, and as he put it, as is. And what that meant was he wasn't going to do any cleaning. He wasn't going to take anything out of the cottage that might belong to him or his kids or his relatives who came to the cottage. And so we realized then that it would probably be fairly rustic. Well, let me tell you. There was a hand pump at the sink for the water. That did it, okay? And my daughter came up with us, and she brought a friend with her, my daughter Kathy, and her friend was Nancy. And the first thing they did, of course, is they made a trip around the house, looked at all the rooms to see what was there. And she came to me and said, "Dad, I don't see a bathroom." I said, "Oh, Kath, you're exactly right. If you look outdoors and you see that little house out there that's got the half moon shape on it, that's it." Well, she didn't know what to do, and so she thought maybe the girls ought to paint. So I went into town and I bought them some red and some white and blue, and I think even yellow maybe, I can't remember. But they did a fantastic paint job. Well, would you know, that little house with the half moon, it was all right then. Then one of the other things the two girls were doing is searching through the house, and they found this box underneath one of the beds. And I was in the other room, and all of a sudden I heard this blood-curdling scream come out of the two girls, and I rushed in there thinking, what in the world did they find? Well, would you believe they found a horse blanket, full mane, and all.
Wow.
And they said, "Dad, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to take it to the dump or what?" I said, "No way." I still got it. And I think that's a special treasure, to have something like that. Well, enough about Dr. Kendall and that house. And Donna and I really wanted to become active members of the Lake Association and the community as well. And in 1998, I was elected president of the association, really not knowing what I was stepping into. R.T. Kruger, yeah, you're the fault, was doing work on Lake Mataga at the south end, and he found Eurasian water milfoil on the South Beach boat launch area. It had grown into a fairly sized bed already, large enough to where when the boats went through, they told me it would get tangled around their props. Am I right, Marty? Right. And so my first reaction and Donna's was, well, what in the world is Eurasian water milfoil? But believe me, we soon found out, and we said, can this invasive species, as RT called it, right, be eliminated? Well, I contacted the DNR and for advice and for some guidance, and I filed a grant at their recommendation, actually, to put some do a herbicide treatment in the milfoil bed. And that was going to cost about $2,800. Well, that ended up being just one of many grants that I filed over the years. Some of them being $15,000, $20,000. I filed one that was just about $30,000. And those funds from the DNR, plus a Lake Association funds, we were able to stabilize and keep the milfoil in the lake to about 50 to 60 acres. And however, the DNR would only provide funds equal to about 75% of the project cost for the treatment. And so we needed really in our association to build the treasury, and so membership dues were raised and raffles were organized, and an effort was made to really personally contact everybody on the lake. I can remember going around and sitting at a lot of breakfast tables talking to the homeowners around the lake and showing them what milfoil was like and explaining what it would do and what it was going to cost to try and treat and control it. I can't say eliminate because we never were able to do that, and I don't know if anybody else has at this point either. And some of the raffles then that we put together, of course, you've seen, I know, at Kentucky Days and at Art in the Square. We always had a booth right on the main street of the city. Well, let me tell you, finding the Reservoir milfoil was a wake-up call, and realizing what the costs were going to be to the association, we felt it was necessary to file for a 501c3 tax-exempt status. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to work with IRS, but, and now the next two words I'm going to say, you know, you can either cover your ears or just bleep them like they do on the TV, okay? So if ever you worked with the IRS, my two words are, it's challenging. And was it ever? Was it ever? There were numerous letters and phone calls and back and forth, and after 6 months of back and forth with letters and phone calls and arguing a little bit over the phone a number of times, the exempt status was granted. Now, thanks to Donna, good heavens, she helped with all the submittals that I did, and we broke out some bubbly after after we received the good notice that we had received an approval of the tax exempt status. Well, Donna and I created newsletters that were given around the lake, and actually to about 450 families, organizations, and it was, the newsletter contained articles from various members in the association, and they were sent to all the property owners and back owners as well. As a matter of fact, there's a, I don't know if I need to call it an ordinance or what would you call it, that says that if you're within 1,000 feet of Lake Matanga water, then you can belong to the Lake Association. So, let's see, I'm looking around here. I got this sheet right up here to sign. Okay. Well, also with Donna's help, we would assemble PowerPoint presentations that I always gave at the annual meeting. And the PowerPoint presentations would cover water clarity and water chemistry and the fishery, including sparing and invasive species and raffles and whatever else was brought before the assembly at that time. Well, it's probably time for me to back down somewhat, and I feel that this work is now being passed on to Gary Miller. There you are, to Gary Miller and his capable staff at the Lake Association, and I know that he and his staff will do a tremendous follow-up job. One last thing I'd like to say before I end. Donna left us a little over 3 years ago now. And I was extremely pleased to see her name being on the plaque along with mine, because believe me, folks, I didn't do this alone. She was my advisor, yeah. She was my editor, okay. She was my secretary, and she was my partner, really, in everything that we did for the Lake Association. And I'll get choked up, but I truly miss her. I loved her, and will someday join her in that heavenly celebration along with Jesus. Thank you, folks.